Hello, Giants. Welcome to Beyond the Purple Door. I am the Wellness Witch, Nicole Castillo, in studio today with a phenomenal guest that I'm so excited to introduce to you guys. If you haven't already, please go like and subscribe to the Wake Up a Giants YouTube Facebook page, the Wake Up a Giants YouTube account. And also, if you are making comments today, make sure you're doing it from the Facebook Wake Up a Giants TV page so that we can see your comments. I am here today in studio with a friend of mine. We were just talking about it. We've been friends for probably since MySpace days, like 16 years.
Hilarious.
So I am here with the former North American state lightweight champion and the former Irish light welterweight champion, Oisin, the Gael Force Fagan. Welcome, Oisin, to our show today. I'm so excited for my viewers to get to know you. You are my first guest with an ESPN profile. It's kind of exciting because
They never actually use that piece in the end. They never use it in the end. I think Fox Sports did in the end, so it's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's very extensive. So I really I've been privileged enough to watch a lot of your journey from just knowing who you are and following you from MySpace to Facebook. And so for our viewers today,
I'm not embarrassed that you said you were on MySpace.
that's where I met my husband. That's where I met you. I still have friends from MySpace days.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, you being one of the first. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So
some good people on it.
I agree. I have a lot of MySpace friends, and we're now looking, I don't know, possibly finding another platform besides.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah. So, but for my viewers who don't know you, I would love for you to maybe introduce yourself, because your bio is very extensive, some big accomplishments on there, and then also who you are as a human being. This is how to have the mindset of a champion, and you definitely have that mindset. We were talking about your name, and it actually means poetic warrior, and that's who you are to me. That's you've been for me. And maybe we'll get into a little bit of the writing side of you, but can you tell our viewers how where your story started?
Yeah, well, I'm from Dublin originally. I'm from a place called Tala out in the south side of Dublin, but we moved to Portmarnock when I was about 12 or 13, and which is over the far side. We're only about 5 minutes away from the airport. So if you're ever coming over, we're real close, real close to the airport. Yeah, but anyway, I played football, like soccer, for most of my life, and I ended up getting a soccer scholarship. But I was really quite old when I got the soccer scholarship. I got thrown out of school as a kid. Like I was about 17. I got thrown out of school, which was a big shame. But it kind of made the story better because in the end I became a teacher, which is a bit mad. But anyway, so I ended up going going over. I had a litany of jobs before I got the scholarship, and I went to and after I got the scholarship, so I played in Oklahoma City for University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma, and I was the captain of the team over there. I know you guys call it soccer. We always call it football over here. And so football was my first love. It really was, and I thought, and I wanted to be a professional footballer. That was my dream. That never happened. Got bad injuries on my knees. Coming to the end of my soccer scholarship, and I was really old when I actually got spotted to play over in America. I was 24, and so I only really graduated when I was around 29. But I graduated with a degree in physical education, and I had concentrations then in political science and journalism. And so, but then straight after I graduated, I had this 1 year that I could stick around. It was called the name of the visa was, what the visa meant was that you could stay and you could go into the field that you're qualified in, and it's called optional practical training. So I could do some work experience in that field. So I I was a little bit lost actually. I was doing some personal training. One of my good friends, Jared, gave me a space in his place, and he let me be a personal trainer. But you really need to be there a long time to get a rapport with people and stuff like that. And so the personal training stuff wasn't going well for me, and I ended up falling on some hard times. I lived in the back of a car for a little while, and and it was a really tough time for me, and I didn't want to go back to Dublin, and people thinking I was a failure because I had got thrown out of school, and then all of a sudden then I was a graduate. I got my degrees in and I thought I was happy with myself, So I was definitely not going home and telling people that I'd failed over there. But I was in a bit of a state, like. I ended up living in the back of a car for a little while. It was tough times. Then I just went. I remember one of my Jamaican friends had told me. Me and him used to do a little bit of sparring in when we had some training when we were playing football. We'd do some later on. I'd say to him, I said, "Do you want to do a little bit of sparring?" He was into boxing. I liked boxing. It's just that I watched it on TV, and I used to do a little bit of training, but I was never a boxer per se. And so he said, "Oh yeah, we get a little bit of boxing in." So I used to spar a few rounds with him, and he says, "You're really, really good." Now I wasn't good. It was just that I was a tough bastard. Like I wouldn't take a step back kind of thing. So I knew that he kind of knew that about me. And he said to me, says, because I called him over the time I was going through some hard times, and he says, "Listen, why would you not go down to if it's a few quid, if it's a few dollars you're looking for, go down to a boxing club and just jump in there, and I'm sure somebody would give you money just to knock you out." He says, "I'm not getting knocked out. What are you talking about?" Like I got, I got, I got upset with him, and he said, "No, but you know what I mean." He said. I says, "Yeah, I suppose, yeah." So I just went down to a boxing club, and the guy called Buck Smith, who was, in fact, he was one of the most winning fighters. He was in the Guinness Book of Records for winning something like 120 or 140 fights in a row. So he's a really competent boxer. He was in the top 10 in the world as well. But Julio Cesar Chavez beat him. And he fought some really, really solid guys as well. Some really terrible guys and some solid guys too. Buddy McGirt and all these guys. And I think Margarito he fought too. Anyway, he said, "Oh yeah, do you want to?" He's kind of like a. I always kind of say to people that he's kind of like a Don King kind of character, because he knew that I was brand new to the sport. He says, "Oh, you want to fight? Yeah, I'll get you a fight like this." And I was here going, I was going, I know where this is going. So I didn't expect to win. So I went, but now in fairness to him, he didn't throw me in with somebody with 20 fights. This guy was only starting his pro career himself, but he had some amateur fights, so he was much more experienced than me, regardless. But so I went in, and I just said, I remember saying to myself, it says, "I'm not going to take a backward step," and I was really, really sloppy, and I just kept on just throwing big haymakers and ended up I hurt him with a shot in the fourth round, and then I threw an overhand right, caught him on the chin. I saw his legs buckle, and just kept on punching. It was so awkward, and I'm glad it wasn't recorded, because I would think I would have looked like such an amateur. I was less than an amateur. I was just kept on punching, and the referee came in to stop the fight because the Sheldon, who was the guy I was fighting, obviously couldn't understand why I just kept on coming, like, because he's hit me with some good shots, and I just kept on coming. Anyway, so I won my first fight. I was going just to win my first professional fight. So I was walking down to the. So when I say the dressing rooms, it was four seats with towels around them. It was in a flea market, right? So I was just going to get changed down there, and as went down, I saw a familiar face, a guy called Phil Cunningham, who was my old girlfriend's uncle, and he knew that I was qualified. But at this stage, then he was a principal of a school, and he said to me, he says, you know, you're a PE teacher, and my PE teacher is leaving. Would you come in for an interview? I was going, what is going on? Because I was in the back of the car only a week before that. I was praying every night. You know, I was here going, oh, what am I going to do? And so in the space of like 20 minutes, I was a teacher by day and a fighter by night. So I ended up getting the job, and all my kids were Latino kids. They used to come and watch me fight, and it was some of the best times of my life. It was a really really good time. You know, that's really how I got into the boxing and teaching, at the same time. That's the way it kind of worked. You know.
Yeah, no, I love so much of your story. When you say that you refuse to be knocked out because you're a tough person, how many? When did that start? I know you started soccer really late, but you also started boxing at a time when, at an age where most people are retiring. So
Yeah.
I'm
Mm.
just curious where the "I'm a tough person" mindset started. Do you remember when you decided that you're a tough person?
Yeah, probably about when I started becoming politically aware. I knew that my mum and dad were tough people in their minds. They were gentle. They were such gentle people to their children and all that. But they were tough, and they wouldn't. They'd never let anybody get the better of them or their kids. But they're real genuine people. They still are. Thank God they still live. But they're politically astute as well, and always listen to the news. We're Irish Republicans, like I make no bones about that. You know, it's like this our story in the north of Ireland, where people were being persecuted for their religion. I couldn't care what religion you are, or what race you are, whatever. But like, if somebody's being dissed, or people are being treated as second class citizens in their own country, like you're gonna have an opinion, you know. And obviously, you don't want your people to be oppressed or anything like that, of course, you know. So I kind of started getting that when I was about 17, 16, 17. So I just decided in my mind that like my mom and dad are tough. Surely that the genes passed down, you know. So I just became like just over kind of overnight. I just says I'm tough. I know that I'm tough, and so it just it kind of went on from there. And I kind of wanted to kind of impress my parents, and that's probably how I and like now they'd be disgusted if I was going out and fighting all the time and all this kind of stuff, you know, because they're really good good people, but you don't get much over us, you know, like so like whereas as gentle as we can be for people who are just coming in and trying to get on with life, whereas but like if you're gonna try distance, or if you're gonna try mess around, or try get one up on us, that's not happening, you know. So that's kind of
Yeah.
where the toughness initiated in my mind, and it says I'm not gonna have that, you know. So
Yeah. Candace says she loves the emphasis on gentle. Just because you are gentle doesn't mean you can't be tough at the same.
nice, Candice. Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel too. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Well, and there was a story that you shared with me about the school calling your mom when you had got in trouble, and she was so life. It was so life changing for me to have somebody tell her, "Oh, you must be proud of your son," and for her to say, "I am always proud of my son."
Yeah.
Just she's just such an inspiration to me from the stories you've shared about her. I just think
Yeah.
she's a
Thank you.
beautiful, phenomenal person, and of
Yeah,
course, she's
thank
going to
you.
be the mother of a two-time champion, right?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Like, yeah, it's just so weird because I was never supposed to be a boxer, and ended up being a good one in the end. Now I was no world champion, but winning two titles on two different continents, I suppose I did well enough, you know. Especially where, as you were saying, people were retiring at 30 years old when I was only starting my boxing career, and most people had hundreds of amateur fights before they turn pro, and I just turned pro and at 30 years old, and and I did well. I did well. Like I won maybe I think I won 27 out of 37 fights, which is good by anybody's standard. But like the fights that I lost, I probably in those 27 fights that I won, I think I won another 4 or 5, and that was against some top fighters. And I do remember having one fight at home in Dublin, that I thought I actually lost, but they actually gave it to me, so it actually reversed on that one. So I should probably be we should have probably have won 30 out of 37 fights or whatever it is. I can't even remember. Yeah, something like that.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's funny too, the things that I remember. I remember there was one fight that you, I think you lost it, but he ended up going to the ER and you ended up going out drinking with your friends after. So it was like, who really won that fight
That's
when
right,
he was
yeah. That was Quan. Yeah, Quan's probably watching this. He's going, "You motherfucker!" but me and him got on well after the fight. But we weren't friends. It wasn't that we weren't friends before. We didn't know each other beforehand. But he was the number one guy in America. Good, great, very very skillful dude. But I do remember fighting him, and it was a big fight. It was for the USBA. It was for the American North American title, and he beat me on the split decision. But I felt like I won that fight. Now, Quan, if you're watching, you know I won that fight. Anyway, and he was the one that went to the hospital, and he was pissing blood. And I went on the piss. I went on the piss, yeah, and had a few drinks that night. But that was a good fight. Now it was a great fight, but the thing is, and uh, the shit thing for me was that we wanted to go back to the federation and say that that wasn't a fair result, and so we were going to contest the results of the fight because it was a split decision in his hometown, and I
Mhm.
was really sure that I won the fight. So we were looking for somebody to study the fight and to see if we could get it reversed, and and they couldn't find the tape,
Of
and
course.
it's never been seen. And if
Yeah.
anybody's out there and they know the fight between Oisin Fagan and Verquan Kimbrough, if they've ever got it taped or anything, please send it to me. I'd love to see it again because it was a great fight regardless. He was a tough boy and he was very, very skillful. He's a good guy now, and I know him as a family guy now, which is great. But yeah, and we get on well. But back then, a fight was a fight, you know. I was just into fighting. Yeah, that's it.
Definitely. Yeah, that the things I remember, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cheers.
I
Yeah,
totally remember that one. Um, and then the decision of not like going into your first fight, I think most people would be scared shitless.
yeah.
Um, is
I
it like
was.
a fight or
I
flight?
puked. Yeah, I puked. I remember from my first 6 or 7 fights, I used to actually physically get sick in the loo, before my fights because I was so nervous. I was so nervous, and I don't. Uh, no, I don't get nervous when I'm doing some training or anything anymore. I started to get used to not being nervous, which it was a good thing, it was a bad thing. As you said, fight or flight. I always chose to fight. By the way,
Yes, I I
however,
noticed that about you in your life.
yeah, yeah, true. However, it's a scary time, especially being so new to the sport and getting in there with professional athletes. Like my fourth fight was in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. It was my fifth or sixth. My sixth fight was in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, where I fought Julio Cesar Chavez, who was the son of an absolute legend, and he himself was a world champion. He ended up being the world champion himself. I thought I won that fight too. They didn't give me the result, but So anyway, that these some of these fights could have really changed my life. But as I say to some people, imagine if I had won that, I might have turned into an arsehole. I mean,
That's been known to happen with some of the people that we
some of
won't talk
the
about here, but we were talking about before the show.
yeah, some of them are here saying you still are an arsehole. Yeah,
Oh,
so
goodness. Yeah, I just think making the decision before you go in that I'm not getting knocked out, does
Yeah,
that apply in other places in your life?
yeah.
Did
Well,
you just
that
make the decision, the mindset of like, I'm not getting knocked
yeah,
out?
boxing, it really it takes a parallel to life itself. It's all about courage. About if you get knocked down, you get back up. This kind of stuff. It's a real. It's a little bit of everything in boxing. The discipline to be good at what you want to do. It's not only boxing, but it's you can place it into any aspect of your life. That's one of the big things. Like nothing for me is a profound. Nothing for me is really like when we're talking about how I got to places. Listen, I won't make bones about it. I really wanted to be a world champion, and I wasn't a world champion, and that upsets me. But maybe things happen for a reason and all that kind of stuff. But the reason why I was anyway successful, and being a champion on two continents, I suppose it is successful. Even though I kind of downplay it because I wanted to be that world champion. I suppose maybe at some stage I'll become more more proud of what I actually made, like of what my career actually amounted to. But back then, I just wanted to be a world champion. There was nothing more on my mind. I just wanted to be the best. But like starting so late, you miss out on a lot of basics. For the first, as I was saying, for the first 10 fights, I was just a scrapper. Like so, I was really, really. Thank God, I was tough. I had it in my mind that I wasn't taking a backward step. It looked ugly to fight, so I was an ugly fighter, as in not great skills or anything like that. I only started to get skills when I began being trained by Steve Thomason, and Eddie Autry was a fantastic trainer. And then over here, then when I came back over here, Phil Sutcliffe was a twice Olympian. He was training me as well. So I learned little bits from everybody. But at the very start of my career was very raw, and hence the ugly how ugly I was when I was actually boxing. But I was winning some, I was losing some. I think I lost three of my first 10, and then at the end of my career, I'd lost 10 of about 40 fights. So I started getting better. I had a string of victories. I did 15 and now in the middle of my career, and then after that, then we started slowing down a bit.
Yeah. What was I going to say? So I was going to touch on, um, oh my gosh, I just lost it. When you were talking about, oh yeah, so doing something even when you're not the best at it. So being able to suck at something long enough to be great, being able to not give a shit about the people judging and looking ugly in the beginning to then build yourself to championship status. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. And when you put it that way, it yeah, you're dead right. I never even really thought of it that way. I was just I was just in it really to make ends meet at the time. So thank God for Phil Cunningham. He really looked after me when I ended up becoming a teacher. So I used to train 3 times a day. So I'd go for a run before school started with the kids, and within during school then. I'd say some of the kids have some good stories about me because I remember used to like most of my kids were Latino kids, so they loved the boxing and they used to come and watch me all the time. It was great, but uh, to keep my fitness up, I'd go outside and I'd be slapping them in the head, and they'd be coming in, they'd be
Yeah.
beat the shit out of me, like, and I'd be slap, slap, slap. But there'd be about 10 of them coming, and I'd be on my back foot, and I'd be running away and just slapping them and slapping them out. And there were tough little kids. Lucky enough, there was a couple of bloody noses and a couple of bleeding lips, but they were it was good at the time. But what I was saying about Phil Cunningham, yeah, he looked after me, and he thank God I got that job. It was a godsend because I didn't have to then look for sponsorships and stuff like that because I had a base of a wage coming in. I owed money then at that stage, but not so much, thank God. But then I started earning after. So for the first maybe 10, 15, even 20 fights, you don't make a lot of money in professional boxing, especially if you're promoted, if your promoter is trying to trying to make a few quid as well. So they're only giving you a few dollars. I wasn't really promoted properly until Stacey Goodson then in Arkansas promoted me, and he was great at getting me some of the fights in the Midwest, and I ended up getting a good record out of him. He was a good guy. I wasn't mad about his politics, but as far as his promotion stuff went, he did well for me. So
Yeah. I think a lot of people put in a situation, their fear of maybe failure or their fear of what other people would think would hold them back. But for you being in a survival situation, or was that ever a thought, or was it just like, I'm doing what I need to do to survive?
yeah, it was initially that was it. It took because it took a few fights before I started becoming flush again with money and all that. So I was fighting really to make a few dollars and to pay back people who I borrowed from and that kind of stuff. So now when I'm saying, like, I know my mom and dad hate this story, but when I was, because they always said, well, if you didn't have the money, why didn't you get back in touch with us? I was going, I didn't want people to be worrying about me. And they was going, well, that they would have given me the shirt off their back, like
Yeah.
absolutely no doubts about it. But so they're real upset when I bring up the story that I was living in the car and all this kind of stuff, and I understand that for them because under their watch, I would never have been living in the car. They would have sent out over as much money as they needed to send over. They would have done anything. They're the best in the world. But it was something I needed to do for myself, because first of all, I would have been embarrassed, even in front of my friends from Dublin, because I had got thrown out of school, and most people didn't think I was going to amount to anything. And so that was one thing in my mind. I was going, nobody's going to see the that side of me. Particularly that I hadn't made it anywhere then yet. And then when I started saying to some of the lads on emails that I was going to become a professional boxer, some of the lads are just going, what the fuck are you talking about? You'd never even had an amateur fight. What are you talking about? Like, I said, people will get, one of my friends, Donald, used to say, you will be hurt if you become a professional boxer. You're going to you'll be thrown down with some really skilled athletes. Like, he says that's a ridiculous thing. I was going, I know, but I'm getting better as I go along. Like, so they couldn't, obviously, because they couldn't see what I was doing over in my training and my discipline and all this kind of stuff that was going through my mind. They were just thinking that I just signed my own death warrant. So they were going, "Don't just be real careful." That's fucking crazy. Like, and I suppose if I look back on it, I suppose it was. But it would have made a shit story if I had to fucking given up.
Yeah, no, it's not who you are. And so, like, I love this because it's like the fighter mentality. You've had it from a very young age, and the focus. So tell me about when you realized that, like, you realized early on that you were talented, right?
Yeah,
Or did it take a while before you realized how talented you are?
Not even now would I say that was talented. I was never a good boxer. Like, I don't think I was a good boxer. The fights that I won was because I was tough. I never really won won fights because I was a good boxer. I think that most of the time, what happened was that they would throw everything but and the kitchen sink at me, and I'd still be there at the end of the day, and I'm fitter than them because I trained my ass off, and that's what happens. I overcome because I'm tougher than them. I've got it in my head that I'm not going to lose, and I keep on going. Now, obviously, I've lost fights, but it wasn't because of me. It wasn't because of me giving up. It was because I was either obviously with the can fight, I broke my leg, and
Mm.
I got up a few times with a broken leg to keep on fighting, and I kept on falling down. And then the referee just said, "Oh, you can't stand, so you can't win a fight." And I didn't want him to stop the fight, but he stopped the fight. He jumped on me to stop me from getting back up, you know. But that's one fight. But there's loads of different fights. I never stopped me from fighting. So that I can
Mm.
always say that I always wanted the fight to go on. Three of my fights were stopped early. I had five broken bones in my face against Isaac Mendoza in my fourth fight, and I wanted to keep on fighting. And with 20 seconds to go in the fight, the referee said, "Oh, that's about too much blood." I said, "There was too much blood fucking four rounds ago." I said, "What you stopped me for? I'm 20 seconds from getting through the fight." He's going, "Oh no, too much blood, too much blood." I says, "Too much blood. There was always too much blood. I got my face broken in the second round, like, and this was in the last round." So I was disgusted with that. So I always wanted me never to be stopped.
Mm.
That was in my mind. So I never wanted to be stopped. That was one. I wanted that to be my legacy. And then after in my fifth fight, I was stopped by. I got it was a headbutt, but it wasn't an intentional headbutt. But his head went straight into my face here. So about three bones in my nose and two in my maxilla here, the side of my face and my cheekbone, and but I kept on going and kept on going, kept on going, kept on going, and then he stopped me with 20 seconds to go in the fight. I was disgusted, and then I had to make another goal for myself, saying, "Well, I'll certainly not give up. If I can't help if the referee says I can't go on anymore." And that's just the way it went on, you know. But that's the way it goes, I suppose.
Yeah, well, also another really inspiring part of your story is when you did break your leg,
Mm.
watching you and how your mindset with a broken leg, you're out crutching the streets of Dublin. You're out with your crutches. I've seen you do the jump rope for how many miles is it? 5, 10 miles?
Yeah, I do about 10K, which is about 6 or 7 miles on the jump rope. I jump rope from my hometown to the next nearest hometown, and go to the village of that and come back again. I'm a bit mad. I'm a bit mad. I understand that a lot of people think, "What the fuck is he doing?" And I understand that. There's a method to my madness because my knees are bad from my soccer days, you know, and
Mm.
they and so if I just go for a run, I take longer strides, and when I take longer strides, there's more pressure on my knees. And when I'm skipping, when I'm doing my jumping rope, it's only
Mhm.
tiny little steps, and that's a lot better for my knees. So that's what I do. Now, some people think that I'm a show off or I'm just trying to
No.
book it. Well, some people do, right? I'll tell you a story about that as well. But so some people think that what's he doing? He's a fucking idiot, you know. But like, I'm doing it for there is a purpose to the reason why I'm doing it. It's because my knees are so bad. But at the same time, it's a bet. They say it's 3 or 4 times better, or you expend 3 or 4 times more calories skipping than you do running. So again, that's another thing added onto my training session. So I'm good with that as well, you know. But that story I wanted to tell you is that I was coming from here. So my house to Malahide village is 5k, 5 kilometers, which is three miles. And there's a road on the way down, and it curves around, so you can't really see. and there's traffic lights then at the end of the road. And I remember I was coming back up from Malahide, and I saw this car coming down coming down, and four young lads. Well, they were younger than me, but they were still driving cars, so they must have been 25, 26, and looking out they were rough, you know. They were one of the kind of scumbaggy kind of guys. Uh, what the fuck are you doing, you fucking like? So giving me shit as I'm going. But I was thinking to myself, they're going too fast. They were speeding down the road, and I know that there was traffic lights down there, and people were stopped at the traffic lights. Says, "You're going too fast, lads. Going too fast." Boom! They smacked it. They smacked into the back of a car, and I just trotted back down around with the skipper. I was going, "What were you saying there, lads? Look what you made us do, you fucking arsehole!" And all this going, yeah, 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 go on. Now fucking go and call the cops and all this kind of shit. So that's the way it was. I was delighted with that because they were assholes. They were real assholes. I had to go over to the person that they bumped into to make sure that they were okay first, and they were okay. Thank God. But so it was a bit of a fender bender, but still, I was delighted that they got their comeuppance, you know. Saved me from giving them a left hook, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about the crutching, because that was one of the things that there was video of you. I don't know who took the video and posted it, but it had me in tears just because you inspire me so much. And
Yeah.
to see you fight through all the adversity that you fought through in your life. And then you have this injury, and some people would be like, fuck this. Like, they would be in their
Yeah.
feelings. They would be feeling sorry for themselves. They would be using every excuse to not get up. But
Yeah.
what do you do?
Yeah, but so that was the calm fight. It was probably the biggest fight I had because of his name. He was a world champion. I think he's a two-time world champion, and he brilliant boxer, Olympic medalist as well, and brilliant, brilliant, and a good guy too. I like him. He's a nice fella, even though we fought and I lost and all that. So I don't like most people that I lost against, but he's a really good guy. I liked him, but so I broke the leg, kept on getting up, kept on falling down. The shit thing was that the local papers and all that didn't pick up on the fact that my leg was broken because obviously I didn't know until maybe 2 or 3 days later. So I was brought to the hospital. I was in England at the time. Obviously, that's where the fight was. I was in England at the time. The fight got stopped. I was disgusted with myself, and I had a big bag, and I had to go home, and I was limping on my leg with a bag over my back, going home. So my leg is broken at this stage, and I'm walking, and the promoter at the time had me in a dressing room about. It was nearly three-quarters of a mile away from the ring. So I was carrying the bag, going three-quarters of a mile with a broken leg, and I was here going, "Oh, my leg is killing me." Says I have to go to the hospital tomorrow. I'm sure there's something really, really wrong. And when I looked at it, it looked like I went over my ankle and it was ballooned out, you know. And anyway, found out there was the fibula bone was there was a spiral break, and it was traveling up about 4 or 5 inches in my leg, so it was broken. But I remember saying to the promoter at the time, Brian Peters, it was my promoter in Ireland at the time. I says, if I can get the go ahead to fight again in 3 months' time on Bernard Dunn's. Bernard was a guy from Neilstown over here, a former world champion, and he was fighting for his world title that night. That I wanted to really fight on that night because it was a huge card in Dublin. And I says, can I fight on that card if I get to go? He says, well, once the referee. He says, you've got a broken leg, like. I was going, no, I understand that, but I'm particularly mad, and I will do all that I can to get myself ready. And he just kind of went, "Oh yeah, you go ahead with that." Like thinking I'm just fucking nuts, like which is a fair surmise, okay. But I said, okay, well that's what I'm gonna do. And so I trained every day. I got the crutches out, and I had the cast on. I got the operation the following day, and the cast is up to my knee, okay. But I'm there crutching away, and I'm going five miles a day, Yeah, 5 miles a day, and obviously, I thought that the skipping was hard to do 5 miles a day, but crutching is a totally different thing, especially at pace. So there was bit. I've talked to people after that, and people maybe only last year says, I remember I used to be running from here to going around that track that you go around up there by your ma's, and you used to be passing me out on the crutches. So you fucking bastard, you. As I be going flying by like this. So yeah, I'm a bit nuts like that. I understand that it's not for everybody, but that is my mentality. I don't need nobody gets the better of me in my own mind, and that's just the way. That's just how I roll. Now I said to the promoter, I says I'll get the go ahead. If I get the go ahead, I'll fight on that big card in March. I think it was in March. He says, yeah. He says, but your leg is broken. And you've only got your operation now. They say you're 3 months in a cast, and then you've got another 5 or 6 months to get ready. I said, but I'm training all the time. I says, so I will
Smart.
get. So he
You
says,
were.
you go ahead, you do whatever you need to do, and he just thought it was nuts. So I got out, I got the cast off, and the doctor in Conley Hospital said to me, "There you go. There's your cast off. Do you want to keep the cast as a souvenir?" I said, "No, no, no." Says, "Can't wait for sparring tonight." He's going, "What?" He's going, "You're sparring tonight?" I says, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to get on video as well because I don't think anybody will believe me that I've just come out with a cat." He says, "No, no, you're fucking crazy." He says, "I says, there's no way you're sparring tonight." I says, "I'll show you the tape." And I just went out of the room, and he's gone. And I could see the madness in his eyes. Go, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. I was going, I'm doing it. I sparred 10 rounds with Raji that night up in Balbriggan, and it took me maybe 3 or 4 rounds to get into it. But 10 rounds after I'd been out of the ring for like 3 months was tough. But my leg was skinny because obviously dystrophy in my muscles, and he was saying. So afterwards I went down to the promoter. I said to him, I said, right, I've trained, I've done my three, I've done 10 rounds, and you're only putting me on for a 4 round fight, so I'm great to go, and this is only the following week. And the promoter said to me, he says, yeah, once you get that in writing, once the doctor signs you off on that. I was going, okay. So I went down to the doctor, and doctor says to me, says, "Doctor, I brought you in this tape. He's going, before you say fucking anything, you're not fighting. You better not spar." I was going, "This is the sparring tape." I says, "This is the sparring tape." He's going, "No, Oisin, no, you can't do that. You cannot do that." I was going, "Please sign me off. It's just a 4 round fight next week on the Bernard Dunn card. It's a big fight, huge fight for the country." And he says to me, he said, "No, I cannot do that. I cannot do it." And I just burst into tears. Just burst into tears. I was going, why can't you see that I'm different than other people when it comes to my mind, and if I need, like, I've trained so fucking hard, and maybe if I hadn't got that goal at the end of it, I mightn't have trained so hard. Well, probably certainly wouldn't have trained so hard. I would have been training anyway because I train every day, but I probably wouldn't have trained thinking that this was my goal, was to get into a fight and fight this. It would have been such a relief for my mind, because when I came home, like, everybody just thought that I got battered by Cam. Now, as brilliant as Cam was, and he was, uh, I think if my leg wasn't broken, I would have went the distance with him. I probably wouldn't have won. He's a brilliant fighter, but I would have been there to the end. But I've got a fucking broken leg, and it pissed me off that people didn't understand that I was going through that, because before the fights, before that fight, people were uh, journalists were coming in and asking me how I was feeling about the fight, and I was delighted with the fight. I was uh, really up for it and all that. And then obviously after the fight, all the headlines were Khan destroys Fagan and all this kind of shit, and it was driving me bananas. To this day, it drives me bananas that they were the only headlines that came out. Nobody even ask me about my leg or anything like that. A few weeks later, there was a little article in one of the papers, saying that I broke my leg, which was nice, but certainly not in the headlines, like when Can destroys Fagan was in the headlines. So I was discussing with that, and I still am, to be honest with you. But that's my inner self fighting with myself, and I guess that's how I get on. That's my thing.
Yeah, well, you still are training hard. You're still shadow boxing. You're still. Tell me what drives you to continue to do that, to live that lifestyle that you live.
I would I would think I've got something in my mind that if I wasn't to do these things, I would say that I would have my mind wouldn't be great. Now, see, I don't know because I've never not trained since I was about 17. I've never not trained every day. Maybe 20 times in 30 years have I not trained every day, right? And I've probably done more again because I've trained. Sometimes I've trained 3 times a day, right? So that's in my mind, and that's what I do. If somebody was to take that away from me, or if I was to lose a leg, but like I say, if
That
it's
wouldn't stop you.
no, it wouldn't stop me.
You would have one leg running down the street. I know
Yeah,
you.
I think so. But if I had something very debilitating, like I couldn't remember, I don't know what could possibly go wrong that I couldn't train. But if something like that happened, I'd say I would fall into a hugely deep depression, and there would be no getting me out of it because that's what I do, and it's the only thing that's kept me on the straight and narrow as far as I'm concerned. Like, so I know that that's what I do, and people are inspired by me as well. So like you've said it yourself. So I'm delighted that you said it to me. Like, because a few people have said to me, if I go out for a few drinks some night, somebody come up to me and said, "Oh, I saw you skipping down the road. That's fucking incredible." I was going, "Oh, thanks." Says that's kind of why I'm doing it as well. I'm doing it for me, my head. But it says if I can pass this on to somebody else, great. Like that's the best thing about it.
Yeah, well, I think to the kids that you coached
Yeah.
or the kids that you taught, and just for them to be able to have that mindset, to have you as a mentor, who really cared about them and then shared those moments with them and transforms their lives, and for them to be able to look to you still and say, "Yep, that's my PE teacher, and he's still badass, and he's still training, and still," because you look so. I know how old you are, so I know how good you look, how well you've taken care of your body, and how you've taken care of your. I mean, you're a boxer, but still, with your skin, you can just tell that you have a very healthy lifestyle, with the occasional naughty of being like drinking, once in a while. But
Mm. But yeah,
yeah,
no, I appreciate that. But no, the discipline's there that even if I do go out and have a few drinks, see that sometimes that's a bit of a problem though as well because I know that even if I'm hammered drunk at some stage, I'll still get up to train the next day. Now that's a great thing that I have that discipline and that toughness to do that. However, I kind of sometimes use that as an excuse. If I go out for a drink, I still know that I'll get up the next day to train, and that kind of says to me, "There's nothing that stops me." Now I know things can stop anybody. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not one of these people who said like God can stop me at any stage. That's the way I've got. A good belief in God, and I'm sure if He wanted to stop me doing what I'm doing, He could do it in a flash. However, in my mind, there's nothing that stops me from training, and that's just how I roll. It's weird, but yeah.
it's
But
awesome.
I like it for me because I couldn't fathom a life without the training now. Thank God, because that's the way I need to do it to be right in my own mind.
I
That's
love
simple
that.
as that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so inspirational to me. Um, Tell me a little bit about the book that I think I've read some of the book that you are writing it, or that is it already written or?
I've written it now. Yeah, I have written it. The thing that I come across a lot is because I'm a boxer, and people don't realize that some boxers can be educated as well. Uh, they don't. So when I'm hearing that, some people. So I've only really explored the Irish, which is a very small pool of publishers. So I've only sent it maybe to 10 publishers, and one or two of them just says, even the best boxers over here haven't got a good like I think Bernard's book was published and it was a really good book, but but I'm not sure if that it sold mega mega,
Yeah.
whereas it should have, because he was a great fighter, and it should have, for boxing people. I think that my book is more than boxing, because
It is.
I don't let boxing define me. I'd be silly if I did. I'm not just a boxer. I was a teacher, as you were saying, and I'm still kind of continuing that vein as well with the kids that I'm training and coaching at the moment. But uh, yeah, so it's hard. Most people, when they're looking, when so when there's publishers, they usually have a package. So they have their author, they have their writer, they have their editor, they have this, that, and the other, right? So I've kind of taken away from their writer, because which is the main part of the book, because I'm able to write, and most people won't expect a boxer to be able to write well at all. Now, I'm not saying I'm the best writer in the world, however,
Good.
I can put a few things together, right?
Yes.
So I'm okay. Like, I'm okay. I'm quite good, and it comes straight from my heart. So I think that it's a better story if I tell them what the crack is.
Oh, yeah.
So
No, you're a brilliant writer. Brilliant writer. I was reading some of your stuff. We were talking about St.
thanks,
Patrick's Day.
actually,
Yeah.
really nice. Thank you. Cheers. So if you've read that story, that's like, I suppose I'm able to put things together. I'm able to write.
Yeah.
But so the thing is that, but if you go to a publisher now, this might not be the same. In if I start sending my book to America, hopefully an American publisher might take it on, uh, and not be so kind of biased that, oh, this fella's just a sports person or an athlete and a boxer at that, which is worse. He gets his brain scrambled. So he wouldn't be able to write. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with over here. So I'm thinking that if I get my book kind of looked at by publishers in America, if there's any publishers out there that'd like to have a look at the book and see what it's like, I'll send it over to you. It'd be great. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with now, because I'm in such a small pool. Nobody really wants to touch it at the moment, but I certainly do have the hopes that somebody will get it, and I'm not in a hurry. I am older, like you were saying. I'm what, my 40s, 48 now, 48 now. So if I,
You're a vampire. You look
but
so
yeah,
young.
good on you.
You
Nice.
don't age. You haven't aged since I've met you
Well
16
on
years ago.
you. Thanks. But if anybody's looking for a good story, it's a good story. It really is a good story. So I'd hope at some stage, I'm confident that it'll get picked up by somebody. So the sooner the better, obviously. But I'm not in a hurry, so I'm not going to wait for just some flip. Like, I've had a few offers, but the offers were really bad offers. So I'm not going to go with just anything. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Nicholas T. Smith wrote the book, The Giants and the Smalls, and it took him 11 years to even get it in print.
Well,
So it's like it came out at the perfect time. It came out right around COVID, when COVID happened. So the timing of it was perfect. So I have all the belief in the world that it will be divinely timed when you find the perfect publisher for you at a time when the world really needs it. Your humor that you're writing, it's hilarious. Like some of the stories that you've sent me, they're
thanks.
just really funny and humorous, intelligent, well written.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So I am very grateful for the opportunity to read your stuff when you send it to me. Again, like some of it has been life changing. The story about your mom and school, the school calling, um, just it's been a pleasure. Like I'm just really grateful that I've been able to watch your story unfold.
Thanks. And likewise, Colin, you've done great for yourself. Fair play to you. Well done.
Thank you. So, as we're getting towards the end of the show, is there anything that you'd like to share with people that you haven't shared yet? What would be your words of wisdom? What is it if you had your students that were watching this, or people that maybe have been in some of the situations you've been in? What message would you have for them?
I know it's kind of cliche and all that, but like it's just to keep on trying, get up every morning and do something, do something that challenges you every day. My thing is training, so I try. So even though I know that that's what I'm going to do, it's still a challenging thing. It's I don't particularly enjoy it. Like I enjoy it sometimes. I do enjoy it sometimes. So it's you kind of need to get into your niche, and you need to know that this is doing something for you, or you want you know that this is it's good for you. So I think that's the way to get over the hump, to think that okay, I could do this every day. Now for me, I obviously if I've gone out and had a few drinks or whatever, there's nothing more that I would rather do than just stay in bed. Like, but I just don't. I'm not built that. I'm not built that way. I
Yeah.
don't. I'm not able to just stay and sit there and just let the world go by. It might be a little bit of it may not even be. I think it's a positive thing, because I'm trying to challenge myself all the time to do something. So I need to do that. I need to do that. Listen, I've got loads of problems. I'm not saying problems, but I've got plenty of things that worry me. Plenty of things that I shouldn't be doing. Plenty of things that I could do better in. But I think what saves me from most stuff is my training, and I really, and I know I'm involved in training people, and in physical education and that kind of stuff, and thank God I am, because for me it's amazing. But I would I would urge people to, even if and you don't have to be as mad as me and go for mad skipping down the fucking skipping marathons and shit like that. All you need to do is all you need to do is get up, and it's the hard part is to actually start something. So even if you say to yourself, I'm going to do 10 minutes today, just get up on an exercise bike, do 10 minutes, and maybe you'll do 20 minutes the next day or whatever, and you'll find that if you do 10 minutes and your breath is okay, you might go that extra 10 minutes or something like that. And that's how it works. But the hard thing is to get up and do something. You have to get up, and the challenging part is to actually say, right, gear on, time to do this, and bang. And it's the hard thing in the mind, because the mind doesn't want you to go there, right? Because that's the challenging thing. But bang, you've done the challenging thing, and once you're in it and you're doing your stuff, your mind kind of then says, right, it's not as bad as I thought. Let's just keep on going, and you become better, and you keep on going that way. You know, it's just something it's been a godsend to me, my training. Thank God, you know.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and you've come up with 2 action steps today out of the 3. So, and I know that I might have to have you back to talk about the charity work and things that you do. There's so many different. So we have the Giants Journeys that Nicholas Townsend Smith teaches with the book, The Giants and the Smalls. And one of the journeys of the giant is giving back. And that's one of the things that you also do, not just giving of yourself as far as inspiring people, but working with so many different groups, with people that you're passionate about helping, like homeless people, and the
Yeah.
charity work that you do with giving back.
You know, I'm not as good lately with it. It's just time has gotten work has been quite tough lately. So I'm not doing as much charity work as I have as I want to do. So that's something that's another challenge now that I have to get back to, because that's another good thing for your mind too. You
Yeah.
help other people and you get back tenfold when you're helping other people, and you see people being happy with your interaction and stuff like that. It's a really good thing, because you're getting the positivity from these people, and they could be in a really really terrible place, and yet if you're trying to help them, they come back, and for some reason it just manifests, and it's a better thing for your mind too, you know.
Yeah, I love that so much. I hope that's okay. Threw that up as the third action step.
Yeah, cool, man.
It's one of those things that I just know it's who you are.
Yeah,
Just
thanks.
like you're my champion. You're a champion to me. You always will be, and not just in the boxing world, but in life. And when it comes to giving back and supporting
your thing for you to say. Thank you very much. That's very nice.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share before we go?
No, I think we're good. That went well. You're a really good interviewer, and I'm delighted to be on the show. So thanks very much for inviting me, and I'll get back again if you want me to get back.
Yeah, I would love to. Great. And before we go, you guys can find Oisin at these different on Instagram at Oisin Fagan Fighting Irish, and then Twitter at Oisin Fagan Boxer. So I will go ahead and put those also in the comments so that you guys can go follow his inspirational journey of life that he's on. Just the beautiful things that he's creating for himself in his world, and then also what he's doing for his community that he's getting back to. It's been such an honor, and I'm so grateful to have you here. I would love to have you back.
Great. No problem at all. Yeah, anytime, Nicole. Yeah, tops. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you guys, I'll be going over to A Tribe of Giants. If you're not part of A Tribe of Giants, please come over and invite yourself. I will approve you to get into the tribe, and I will be posting a thumbnail there along with our 3 action steps this week. And that way you can ask your questions, you can get support, and you can share with us what's going on in your world, what you're celebrating, and what you're needing support with. The tools, support, accountability that you need to live your happiest, healthiest life is beyond the purple door. Open the damn door. I love you guys. We'll see you next week.